I know these videos are a nuisance to watch because of background noise and my appearances, but if you can stand it, you can always put CC on and turn off the volume. They're auto-generated and they're sometimes fairly accurate. I realize that there are some things that if people are not reminded of, they forget. Although I doubt anyone will forget the awful slithering of Seattle law enforcement when it comes to doing even their most routine duties in the matter of torture and unbearable false witness. Of course, there's an explanation that goes around in Seattle. They have storylines for everything. So let's recite some of the injuries. They've been neurologically directioned. They lured me here with a promise for protection from abuse. And then poisoned me. I went through 3 emergencies for my heart, and I developed diabetes, erectile dysfunction, and now Parkinson's disease. I already have neurological injury in my face and memory that had left me deaf. And they claim this is honorary sacrifice to make me an inspiration to the African black man who just happens to be allied to the German Nazi Green Party. What they're really doing is jacking up speculation values on their museum heists. They're Licky Chops Bueno for the Croquet Gusta Corona, whose real name is Yoko Ono and lives in Dakota, New York City, who had hired a gang to molest me in childhood in connection to the Texas school book out of Hollywood. What I propose to do a little bit here is to rehearse some of the interesting things I found in the public domain and the terrible consequence, torture, and brutality that came from the criminals in the Occupy of Seattle administration as a result of my being detected finding these things, which are in the public domain. One of them was a film from East Germany by Wolfgang Stout called The Murderers Are Among Us, which tipped me off to the awful tone that's at work in the Hollywood semiotic system and began my search for the super story in Hollywood semiotics that exists about the backdoor unlocking of American control towers through the sneaking in of an Axis allegiance of Hitler Reagan. Now, people in the NAACP don't like Hitler Reagan. They don't. That's not an important. That's not a good thing to call the president of the United States. You don't talk that way about Biden. Will get you. Well, it turns out that one of the reasons why the NAACP is so embarrassed by the truth about Reagan is that he was working with the men who created the Burning Cross for the KKK. That's right. It was created by Raoul Walsh and D.W. Griffith for the film Birth of the Nation, and then was adopted from the movie by the KKK, who went on to make Hitler Reagan's wartime films. And he, of course, was the person who came and said the NAACP are patriots for going into Vietnam and for castigating Martin Luther King, which is the moral fiber of the United States. Then they made an alliance with the man who invented the Burning Cross for the KKK. Let's hear it for Aaron Dixon, the German Green Party. So next is the weirdest movie ever made, The Green Berets. The Green Berets opens with a Marine, I kid you not, you can see it for yourself, in German, singing in German. Now this symbolizes what they were doing. They were getting control of the control tower and then going straight forth with anti-communism to make enemies for the liberals of the United States, whose real leadership they had assassinated. And it gives you some idea of the complicated system of compromises that Robert Kennedy is going to have to deal with when he becomes president over the resistance of mean Joe Biden. Other movies that I have found, the old copies of War is Hell, which was playing at the Texas Theater when Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested, shows that, the men crawling on their stomachs, the Beatles, in wartime scenes. and it has a sort of dark analogy to Kennedy. It opens with a guy in a car getting his forehead bloodied. Um, I thought that may be the other one. There was War in Hell, and then there was another one. I got my hands on these things, and I can't watch them right now because my DVD player got busted. But for a while, I had a DVD player which played Japanese films, but it got busted. Um, so if you look at Dangerous Journey, which was made by the men who invented the burning cross for the KKK, Reagan says, Goring's train, that's almost good enough for me. The understatement is that only Hitler is good enough for Reagan. And that's clearly understated. In Storm Warning, there are similar strange illusions, like a Jewish woman face to face with a blonde haired woman with an accusation stance, as though to say, it's my turn. And it's interesting if you look at Alec Baldwin's book. B, he says, is for Burstyn, which is the name of the little girl who wrote the script. They played a John Rawls kind of closest continuous show game, replacing Gail Burstyn with Greta Thunberg through the manipulations of Penis Gabriel's media system and its mockery of mysticism. So, of course, idealism is a messy business that people prefer. Whose idealism? My idealism or your idealism? You know, America's overreach comes back to bite us. You know, if you can't protect all the innocence of the world, then you're doing a bad job, and so we'll come after your innocence. And the people who are being protected from are listed next. B is for Banderas. So the Banderas Nazi gang are in line with the little Jewish girl of Israel who wrote the Texas school book of the AIDS attack. This is the duplicity of idealism at work in the arrangement of a foreign accusation pointed at the United States. So we get the idea. And what did they do through the whole thing? They carpet bombed me young. Oh, while Hakeem Jeffries was saying, we will crush the anti-Semites. They make an earthquake in Syria. Crush them like an earthquake. And they neglect it, Iraq, we bombed, and then we said, Putin, now's a good time to invade Donbass because we need some cover over the they dog whistle to Putin, invade Donbass so we can cover for Trumpy Toon's alliance of the Council of Dictators and COVID monstrosity. Okay, so he goes, he does, what PU says, and they've been working on this for a really plenty long time. There's a scene in Guns of Navarone where they say, those are our boys, and cut the Germans running down the steps of the Parthenon. And the symbol of the underground in Casablanca, and nobody seems to notice this, I kid you not, is a double cross. And they bring in Hitler's favorite actress, Ingmar Bergman, to star as Martha Gellhorn for whom the bell tolls in Casablanca. So they openly parade. And they get Bogart to say things, for your sake, I let her pretend. Openly parade the back door. It's almost like laying out the red carpet for Hitler's Germany to take over the country. And they put it out in the public domain and then batter to death. People who are detected finding these materials. And Seattle's something else, man. They poison somebody in the mouth to cleanse them. Ecology is a force in this matter, and they've been planning it all along. Don't be fooled by Greta Thunberg. Her middle name contains the initials ONO for Ono. Flame Over Africa, who tortured me for Yoko Ono in 1974, did in fact do covers for Yoko Ono too, that she, I am absolutely sure, would admit she knew about, because they're playing the game of capture the script that they wrote. Oh, John Lennon got hanky-panky. We get the script. And then they say, oh, no, you should not. They rip or murder a girl over a penny. And so that's John Lennon's spirit. John Lennon's spirit. Him. And, it is obviously he pulled a Houdini. All of the evidence that I'm talking about shows that he pulled a Houdini. And they said, and Todd Clark says that we were training the queer-based specimen for sexual excess and Donald and secrets. And Charles comes in and says, I second that. We can't have any of this sexual excess. And when Alpha comes and says, crimes unfathomable have taken place. We're just leveling the playing field. And who are they defending? Jagger, Nijinsky, the poets of sexual excess who get to do it with Midori Goto and so on because the young Americans can't remember JFK. Do you remember that when Bowie gave a Hitler salute? Do you remember when King Edward covered Adolf Hitler's attacks on Britain and said, "Give him a black eye for me, Adolf"? Do you remember when Penis Gabriel went around singing about people being destroyed by being turned into elephant men? Do you remember when David Bowie portrayed the Elephant Man in a setup to sell the queers on the momentum of one size fits all? Do you remember when I tried to get people to warn each other of the problem that we were facing with Hitler Reagan's government? And they completely ignored me because these psychopaths in Seattle wanted to play an extermination war game. Do you remember when 911 came down to Diamond, Gaulis was standing there with a stiletto, and the anthrax crowd who later poisoned me in the mouth to cleanse me for COVID? Do you remember when Midori Goto, two virgin pussy balled us all to death with honorary the black man tribute from Boris Obama, the drone warrior of Iraq? Do you remember when the Russians liberated Auschwitz? Do you remember